Okay, hi everybody. This is week 15, EEL and IEW. We'll start off real quickly with EEL. This week, structure is still the same. We're still working with complex sentences. We know what that is. A complex sentence has one independent clause and at least one subordinate clause. Independent clause is a subject and verb that makes complete sense. A subordinate clause, also known as a dependent clause, has a subject and a verb, but it does not make complete sense. So it's dependent on your independent clause. So complex sentence has one independent clause and at least one subordinate clause. Purpose this week is interrogative, and you simply to change a sentence from a declarative purpose to interrogative, you do one of three things. Our sample sentence is, I hope you can read this when I'm looking at it, it's backwards, but our sentence is, I gave my daughter the old phone. I shortened it a little bit. Last week it had a subordinate clause in it. You know, I gave my daughter the old cell phone when I ordered myself a new one, but it didn't fit on the page, so I shortened it just a little bit. So you can do one of three things to take this sentence and make it interrogative. They are: add a question mark at the end, add a helping verb. Did I give my daughter the old cell phone? Should I give my daughter the old cell phone? Have I given my daughter the old cell phone? And then finally, we can add an interrogative pronoun. Who gave my daughter the old cell phone? So there are three ways that you can take a sentence, a declarative sentence or any other purpose, and make it interrogative. Simply add a question mark, add a helping verb, or add a relative pronoun, interrogative pronoun. So that is not different. We've learned that. I think we've talked about that 2 other times? Yes, with our 2 other sentence purposes. So that's not new. We're just adding it to the complex sentence structure. Okay, next we have, our new part of speech. If you'll remember from chart A, there are 8 parts of speech. We have noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, conjunction, interjection, preposition, adjective. Well, today we're going to talk about interjections. And an example of an interjection would be, wow, you did great. Our interjection in this sentence is the word wow. It really doesn't have any other purpose other than to show, in this case, excitement. Doesn't always have to have an exclamation point behind it. It could just be the word bummer, and that's not going to have an exclamation point behind it. So an interjection does not necessarily show excitement. It also doesn't have to be just one word. It can be kind of a phrase, or it can actually sound like a sentence. It can be something like, cool, dude. It's not really a sentence, is it? It's an interjection. Now, how do you diagram an interjection? Like this. An interjection kind of dangles over your diagramming line, very similar to your noun of direct address. Now, if you had a noun of direct address, for example, if my sentence was, wow, dude, you did great. Dude would be our noun of direct address. What comes first? Wow. Dude would go underneath wow. And then you did. How did you do? You did great. Great is actually a modifier here. It's an adjective. So this is what an interjection looks like. I'm sorry I didn't label it. It would just be labeled with a capital I over your interjection. But you diagram it by a dangling line over your diagramming line, your diagramming bar. Okay? So that is our new part of speech, interjection. Let me see what we have next. Okay, we have a new chart this week. Chart N, and it is verb anatomy of to have. And if it is, let's see, chart N, it's to have. Present is has, have, had, having, had. If you will, when you're working with your children at home with this, because there's so many different quadrants on this chart. I don't know if you guys can hear my dog over there. He's growling. She's growling, rather. She wants something that's underneath the sideboard. She can't reach it. Anyway, a fun way to work on these charts when you're working with your student at home, because we have simple tense over here in the gray box. In this quadrant over here, we have perfect tense, progressive tense, and perfect progressive tense. And then, of course, over here on this side of the chart, we have person, whether it's first, second, third person, singular or plural, first, second, third person, singular or plural. So a fun way to work on this is say, can you find third person singular present form of to have? And see if they can find it by looking for third person singular present form of to have. So they'll have to find over here third person singular present form of to have. Present, third person singular present is he, she, it, has. Okay, so just give them something on this chart to look for, whether it is first person singular perfect present tense. Okay, and see if they can find it. Or if you want to give them a sentence, if you want to say, I have been having, and see if they can find it and tell you what form and tense it is on your verb. Because remember way back when we studied verbs back on week 3, we talked about that verbs have time and form and tense or time. So it kind of goes back to week 3 when we learned the forms and tense of our verbs, and that's what we're looking at on chart in conjugated form of to have. Okay, lots of information on here. Just remember, you have 3 years to learn it all. It's all good. No pressure. First tour students, start over here in the gray area with your simple tense. Present would be I have, past would be I had, and future is I shall have. Now have, we know, is a helping verb, right? In these sentences, though, it can also be used as your regular verb. I have a dog. That's a transitive verb. I have what? Dog. Dog would be my direct object, and then have would be a verb transitive. Fun, huh? Okay, so yeah, verbs are fun. Okay, so just work on the conjugated form of to have with your student on chart N. To have is one of those verbs that you're going to see so very often, and it gives such meaning to your sentence depending on which tense that you use it in, especially when you get down over here for perfect progressive tense. I have been having, I had been having, I shall have been having. It totally changes the meaning of your sentence. So just have fun with this. Kind of make it a challenge. See if they can find which quadrant you're working in. Give them a person and a tense and see if they can find it. Okay? Okay. Chart in. Next we have, okay, this is the biggie this week. This week, we're adding to our tasks. We have been working on tasks 1 through 4 for 14 weeks. It's time to add task 5 and task 6. It's not hard, I promise. Uh-oh, I just got a low battery sign. Okay, so let me do this real quickly. So, if you have your task sheet, we've been working on the front side of our task sheet. We're going to flip over and start working on the back side for task 5, okay? Task 5 simply says modification confirmation. And what we do with task 5 is we're going to take a simple sentence. I took the simple sentence, you did great. That was my interjection sentence that we saw a few minutes ago. You did great. That's our declarative purpose. And we're going to change our purposes of the sentence, and that's all we do for the first half of task number 5. So you did great, period, becomes you did great for exclamatory. Interrogative, you can choose one of our 3. You did great, who did great, did you do great? And that's how it becomes interrogative. And then imperative, do great. Okay, now we also have to, in task 5, rewrite our structure. And that means that we can take a simple sentence like, I gave my daughter the old phone, and make it compound. I gave the old phone and she accepted it. So I have two independent clauses because I've made my sentence compound. Remember, compound has to have two independent clauses joined by a fanboy, coordinating conjunction. And then we take our compound sentence, or a compound sentence, or a simple sentence, and we make it complex. I gave my daughter, who has no money, my old phone. Okay, so I've taken a simple sentence and I've added a subordinate clause in it with a relative pronoun. Okay, there's one section that you guys, if you're a first tour student, are not ready for, and that is the compound complex. We have not studied compound complex yet, so don't worry about doing that. If you are a second or a third tour student, go ahead and do compound complex. You can do it. No, you can. Okay. And then there's a section where it says rewrite with modifiers. I have written, I gave my poor daughter the old phone under, that's a phrase, under the table so she could use it. I don't know how she can use it under the table, but that's the only prepositional phrase I could think of at the moment. Okay, and then advanced tasks, rewrite by voice. Remember we learned voice last week, active or passive. So I've simply made it passive by saying, the old phone was given to my daughter. Remember, if you have a direct object in your sentence to make it passive voice, you have your direct object become your subject. So in the other sentence, I gave the old phone. In this sentence, because it's passive voice, the old phone was given. Okay, so that is task 5. Let's see if I can do task 6 before my battery runs out on my phone. Task 6 is quid et quo. Now you have a couple of quid et quo sheets in your book, in your students folder. It's going to be pages 437 and 439. For my newer students, you may want to start off with page 437. It has a few, gosh, if I can get that straight, it has a few fewer details to incorporate. If you'll notice, 439, or oh goodness, add to that number, 439, so 441, depending on your edition, which edition of EEL folder you have, has a few more lines on it. Okay, so start off with 439 for my first tour students because it's not as complex as 441 is going to be. Okay, or you could use the trivium table, the quid et quo chart that you can get at practicum and whatnot. Okay, so I have taken a sentence and I have quid et quo'd it. So let me show you what I've done. There's this fun little section down at the end that has basically a dry erase board on it. Okay, so I've taken the sentence. Let me remember what a sentence is. Oh, I have used one of last week's sentence, and so it has a different purpose in it. It's an imperative purpose, since last week we went over imperative purposes. So I've taken a sentence that we did last week. It's one of your sentences that you were supposed to do during the week last week. It's I think it was number 3. Give all of the saints who believe a gold crown. So what I did on this little dry erase portion of my trifold board, or my trivium table, whatever you want to call it, quid et quo board, I've taken my sentence and I've labeled it. Okay, found my subject, understood you because it's an imperative purpose. What is being said about you? You give who or what, crown, to whom, for whom, all is my indirect object. All of what? All of the saints. So all of the saints is a prepositional phrase modifying all. Which saints? Who believe. Okay, so we have a subordinate clause beginning with a relative pronoun, which means it's an adjectival subordinate clause modifying the noun saints. Okay, so I've taken my sentence and I've diagrammed it down here below it. Understood subject you, give, indirect object, direct object, which all of the saints, which saints, who believe. Okay, so this one was a little bit different than any of the ones that I've done in class. previous ones that I've done on the board, all of my adjectival clauses have come off of my subject. But remember, adjectives modify any noun. Doesn't necessarily have to be your subject. It's modifying my object of the preposition over here. Because remember, an object of the preposition has to be a noun, right? Okay, so isn't that cool? Okay, so I've taken the sentence, labeled it, diagrammed it. Now, I put it on my Quid et Quo board, written it out just like it is in my sentence, okay? And then what we do is we take each one of those words and we figure out what they are. Here, I'm going to shorten this just a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. So I started off with my understood subject, you, okay? Is you a noun or a pronoun? It is a pronoun. So I'm going to scoot down here to the pronoun section and I'm going to answer the questions, okay? So let me look at it with you. What are the pronoun questions? Is it, it asks first of all for the case. And case, is it nominative, objective, possessive? Well, up here we know it's my subject pronoun. And if you remember when we talked about those Latin cases, nominative, subject. So if it's my subject, it's going to be a nominative case. Moms, dads, this is super important. When you get to Latin, you have to know these cases. Haven't mentioned this in a couple of weeks, but know those cases. Nominative, subject, declarative, now I can't remember. Anyway, so just know your noun cases. It's back on the noun chart, okay? Let's see, is it first, second, or third person? You, I am always number one. You are always number two, okay? So second person, if I'm talking to you, whether you're singular or plural, always second person, okay? So we know that understood you, it's going to be second person. Now, it asks for singular or plural. We actually don't know if it's singular or plural. We don't know what context this is coming in, so we're just going to put unknown. That's one of our options. It's actually not written on there, but that's one of our options because we just don't know. Then it asks masculine, feminine, neuter, or common. And again, we do not know. We don't know what context this is in, so we're going to put unknown. And really those genders are really for our foreign languages. When you get to Latin, you're really going to use gender more than you will in English. And then it's not any other kind of pronoun. We'll see another type of pronoun in just a minute in this sentence. Okay, then our verb is give. So we know it's a verb. It's verb transitive. So we're going to come down here to this section where it says verb. And we're going to answer the verb questions, okay? So what type is it? We already know it's verb transitive. That's one of our choices. Intransitive, transitive, linking, or helping. It's transitive. Tense. Can you guys hear my dog? Okay, tense. Is it present, past, or future? Did I say you have given? That would be past. You give, present. You will give, that's future. So in this sentence, you give, because it's an imperative purpose, is present tense, okay? So it's present tense, form, simple, perfect, progressive, perfect. We have no participles with this. There's no helping verb, so it's pretty much going to be a simple sentence or a simple verb. Number, singular, plural. Again, we do not know. We don't know because our subject, we don't know if our understood you is singular or plural. We don't know whether the verb is singular or plural. Person, of course, it has to coordinate with our subject, so it's going to be second person. I think I wrote first. That's wrong. Anyway, it should be second person because you is always second person. Let's see, voice, active or passive. Who's doing the action? The subject, so it's going to be active. Also, it's a verb transitive, so we know it's active. And then mood. Wow, okay. Mood in this sentence, because my sentence is imperative, give the, what did I say? All of the saints who believe a gold crown. It's an imperative purpose. So the mood for a verb or options are indicative, subjunctive, imperative. More often than not, it's going to be indicative. In this case, because I chose an imperative sentence, the mood is imperative as well. Okay? Let me open up to another part of the sentence. Then we have give all. What is all? Oh goodness, I'm gonna have to use this part over here. What is all? I don't have a long enough arm. Okay, all is our indirect object. What is an indirect object? An indirect object, let me fold this back over here this way. Indirect object is going to be a noun, right? So let's go to our noun choices. Indirect object. What do I have? Oh, it's pronoun. I totally forgot. Okay, so remember when we were on the pronouns and we learned all of the indefinite pronouns? Well, the very first one is all. So all is an indefinite pronoun. Where do I have that? Okay, so over here in the pronouns section right here, we have our word all. And all we have to do is mark it as an, oh gosh, Willow, shh, go in there. As an indefinite pronoun. I think the UPS guys here, sorry. Maybe, maybe not. Okay, next word of preposition. We're going to mark it as an preposition. What kind is it? It is an adjectival. How do we know it's an adjectival? Because it's modifying all. Which of the saints? Which all rather of the saints, okay? So all of is actually modifying all. Okay, and then article, adjective, the. We go down to adjectives, and oh goodness, we go over here to the side. We find articles, numbers, or other pronouns. It is an article. I think right up there, okay? Or in the green section, article. Okay, object of the preposition saints. Object of the preposition is either going to be a noun or a pronoun. Hey, Jules, can you take the bottle away from Willow? Okay, so saints is the object of the preposition. It's either going to be a noun or pronoun. Saints is a noun. So we're going to do the noun section over here for saints. What is it, singular or plural? Saints, plural, has an S on the end. Is it common or proper? It's common. It's not capitalized. Is it concrete? Yeah, we know what a saint is. So it's not abstract, it's not collective, and it's not compound. Okay, then we have who. Which of the saints? The ones who believe. What is who? We know it's a subject pronoun, so we're going to do the pronoun questions for it. And let's see, who... pronoun questions is a relative pronoun, so that's all we have to mark for saints is a relative pronoun. Who believe. Believe is our verb of our, okay, so our subordinate clause is who believes. Who believe. So subject pronoun, verb is going to be believe. So we're going to go down to our verb section down here. What type of verb is it? It's It's intransitive. It is present. It's simple because it's just, you know, there's no other participles with it. There's no helping verbs, no linking verbs, all that kind of fun stuff. Is it singular or plural? Who believes. Saints is plural. Who modifies saints? Who would be plural? So our verb would have to be plural, okay? They have to agree. Who believe. Those saints are third person. I'm first. You is always second. Anybody outside of our conversation is third person. So saints, because it modifies saints, who are third person. This has to be third person as well. Is it active? Yes. The subject is doing the action. So it's active voice, and it is, what is that last one? Indicative purpose. Okay, almost done. Article, adjective. Go down to our adjective section. Mark it as an article. Gold, again, is an adjective. It is a descriptive positive. If it had a negative connotation, it would be negative. In this case, it's just descriptive and positive. And then we have a do. What was our do? I kind of messed up. Oh, crown. So it's our noun. And we're going to go back over here and describe crown. Is it singular or plural? It's singular. Common or proper? It is common. And is it concrete? Yeah, it's concrete. It's not abstract. It's not collective, and it's not compound. Okay, so I think I got that in. If you have any questions, let me know. And of course, the answers are always at the back of the book in the question in the sentence section of your books. Okay, now real quickly for EEL, we were simply just going to do lesson 19, which is another sample multiple references that we're going to use a fused outline with. So if you'd like to do that at home, you can, but I would prefer if you worked on your third paragraph, topic C, for your Faces of History paper. And this week, our stylistic technique that we're working on is bibliography. Now, bibliography, the best source for you is going to be your SRP, your Student Resource Packet. And on page 165, there's a section on how to do a bibliography. Remember, it has to go in alphabetical order by your author. Sorry, something popped up on my phone. By your author. There are... this is a great resource for you to have so that you can show your child how to do a bibliography. It can get kind of complicated though, especially when you're working with websites and whatnot. So a quick little trick for you to learn is some citation websites. And the one that Pudawa recommends, and it's in this SRP, it's called easybib.com. And all you have to do is type in your author, your website. It gives you some things that you can type in, and it actually pops up a bibliography for you already typed in. All you have to do is copy and paste it and make sure that you put it in alphabetical order according to your author. I also have a source for you. I'll give it to you soon. I need to make some copies of it. But it is how to do bibliography for a citation for timeline cards, because you can use your timeline card for a source for your Faces of History. So I have a sheet that came out from CC, on how to do bibliography for your timeline card, and I will get that to you next week. But there's a section in your HBW, but there's a lot more information in your SRP, and there's another great source in your TWSS on how to do a bibliography page. Just remember, bibliography is on a separate sheet of paper. It goes at the tail end of, behind your last paragraph on your Faces of History, and it follows the same kind of general formatting as the other ones. Center the title, bibliography, and then a 1/2-inch margin on the left-hand side. Okay, I think that's all. So I hope you guys have had an enjoyable couple of days off with the snow. Hope you haven't been going stir crazy. Hopefully you've been able to do a little bit of schoolwork too. So take this time and enjoy it. Enjoy your children. Have fun on that chart N that we introduced this week. Trying to find certain sentences, or going backwards and telling them to find a particular form and tense, and seeing if they can look for it. And of course, always ask me if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them. I have some notes typed up for this, and I will send them out to you as quickly as possible. Anyway, I will see you guys next week. Bye.